Morning.
Morning, Council.
Oh,
Waiting for-
hello.
There are. From the early 20th century. In fact, if you listen, if we just sit. HORO.
Yoma's
Good
not
morning,
here.
Senor Delgado.
Can you please say what I'm saying because they can't hear me?
Can you all hear me? This is Bill.
Good morning, good morning. How's everyone doing?
Today.
Can anybody hear us
Yeah.
here at the chambers?
Hello, can anybody hear us?
I can.
I can hear you.
Your mic is off right now.
When I
Being patient, I appreciate it. Anyways, Harold, how's everybody doing this morning?
we're all doing good, we thought chambers.
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing when in regards to restriping I-80, it looks like basically bumper cars and version of go-kart. So, you know, and every morning's Spaghetti Roll Express is moving. What's that? Oh, she's not. Okay. All right, so let's get started. All right. We live?
Yep.
Got everybody in? Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Sorry for the delay this morning. It is 9:10. This is the regular meeting for the Washoe County Regional Transportation Commission. This is our regular board meeting. Pursuant to the continued emergency directive from the governor, we are still practicing social distancing. Majority of our board is attending via Zoom, and we do have nobody in the chambers with us other than myself and the executive director. Before we get started this morning, I want to take a brief moment, and it's been a tough morning, or a tough 24 hours for the family here at RTC and the entire region. Yesterday, we lost a leader, a colleague, a chairman, a friend, someone very important to all of us, Mayor Ron Smith. He led this community with dignity and grace above everything else, and truly has been a mentor to many people, a guiding light for many people. His passion for governance and public service goes beyond what most people do. But with all that being said, he still never lost focus of the most important thing in his life, which is his family. Karen and his daughters and his grandchildren. He spoke highly and did everything for his family. And he will be one of those individuals that will be very difficult to ever replace. You know, as many people say, God broke the mold when they made Ron Smith. And that's a true story. Many of us have and share many memories with him and have served with him. Most of us have served with him almost an entire decade. But he has served here since 2009 at the RTC. He always took transportation very seriously and fought for roads and improvements, not only in Sparks, but through our entire valley. He focused many years on the Pyramid Connector and Pyramid McCarran interchange. He fought for the Prater Way resurfacing. He did the Southeast Connector. He was integral in so many projects throughout this community that have his hands all over it. And we're all the better because of it. So I'd like to take a minute and acknowledge our friend, our colleague, and our past chairman, Ron Smith, in a moment of silence, please. Thank you, everybody. And before we get jumped off, I want to give an opportunity to our other commissioners, if they'd like to say a word or two in regards to Mr. Smith. Councilman Dare, you were very close to him.
Yeah, thank you. I can just, I can say that when I went in to say goodbye a couple days ago, he's surrounded by his family. And I think one of the biggest things that you can say about somebody is, you know, who's there, walk you in those moments, and his whole family was there, down to his grandkids, and quite an amazing man, very important in my life, and we worked on a lot of things together, and it made a lot of big difference. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What a giant in our community. He was patient, kind, never jealous, never rude, never boastful. I mean, he exuded what love really means. And he was just truly an amazing fellow. Very, very, very dear friend to us, to my family. My heart aches for his family right now and for the Sparks City Council. So my heart goes out to you guys, Chris, and everyone. That's all I can say, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Delgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You said everything very eloquently, Chair. The last few years that I've been able to spend some time with Mayor Smith, it's been, I think, first and foremost, he was so proudful of his family. He cared about his family so much, and that definitely showed in terms of what he also thought about the community. He was so very proudful of the city of Sparks, and I know Sparks and his family and everyone's hurting, knowing that we've got some big shoes to fill. I know the city of Sparks is working on that. There's some great leaders there, but I truly, truly appreciate his family and the community to share. They shared them with us. I've definitely learned a lot over the last several years under his leadership, being able to sit next to him and hear his comments and his thought process on some very large infrastructural projects, and also just on different committees that we sat on. So I'll never forget those memorable opportunities. And again, my heart goes out to City of Sparks, his family, and everyone that was touched by Mayor Smith. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. I want to take a minute and also read some words from our past executive director, Lee Gibson, who was very close to Mayor Smith. Ron and I and Lee traveled quite frequently to DC and many projects to secure funding. And so I want to read some words from Lee this morning. Ron was a passionate Nevadan, dedicated to making government and its service, especially infrastructure, work well for the region. He also recognized that infrastructure is not about concrete, steel, technology, and vehicles, but about people, their lives, their families, and that's why he championed transportation projects and services that improve safety and economic development through our region. Ron and I went through the Great Recession together. He stressed about how creating jobs was an important task of the RTC, local businesses, through those investments, create a new economy. His prescient support for the fuel tax, indexing, and initiative helped the region build resilience that today is helping us get through the pandemic. He was a visionary who knew too well that no one individual could do it all. In Ron's view, everyone had to work together no matter what the task. I think that that is a view he developed during his U.S. Navy service on destroyer during the Vietnam War. Ron will be missed, and it's still a difficult day of mourning for our RTC family and for our region. But I want to thank everybody for their comments this morning, but we have to get back to business as usual. He would want it that way, and I can hear him chiming in my ear right now. I've got his challenge coin in my pocket this morning. But he would say, "What time does this 9 o'clock meeting start?" So with that being said, Ron, we miss you, we love you, and we're gonna get right down to business. So with that, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Certainly. Bob Lucy,
Here.
Numa Jardin is not in attendance. Von Hartung,
Here.
Oscar Delgado,
Here.
Christopher Dare, thank you for being here.
Here.
Bill Thomas,
Here.
Dale Ferguson,
Here.
and Christina Swallow.
Here.
Thank you, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Thomas, will you lead us in the pledge to our flag? Pledge allegiance to our flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We're on to item 1, which is the approval of the agenda this morning. Looking for a motion or any changes that we need to make to the agenda this morning by any of the commissioners? I have no.
So moved, Hartung.
I have a motion from
Second.
Hartung. Second from Commissioner Dare. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We're on to item 2, which is public input. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment this morning?
We did not receive any public comment.
All right, seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment and move on to item 2.2. Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, and board members, in the packet is the report for the monthly citizen committee members, our committee meetings. We, as the commissioner said earlier, we can't have in-person meetings, so we've done our best in terms of the world of Zoom and teleconferencing to continue to solicit and allow for public participation. So absent any questions, I don't have anything specific to report other than the details of those meetings are in your packet.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to accept the monthly multimodal and citizens impact fee advisory committees reports.
So moved, Christopher Dare.
I have a motion.
Second, Hartung.
Motion from Commissioner Dare, second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item 3, this is our consent agenda. We have many items on the consent agenda. This our regular just housekeeping business. Is there anything on the consent agenda that any of the commissioners would like to pull this morning for further conversation? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda as posted.
Motion, Hartung.
I have a motion from
Second.
Commissioner Hartung, second by Commissioner Delgado. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. I gotta say, Commissioner Hartung, it kind of scares me when you jump up on the big screen like that every once in a while. But it's nice to see you this morning.
Well, I didn't realize I was jumping on the big screen. That's I've always wanted to be on the big screen,
Well,
sir.
buddy, you're on 4 big screens right here in the chamber this morning. It's kind of an interesting.
Yeah, no, it's those horror movies are my favorite. So hopefully I didn't frighten you too much.
I'm glad you took a shower and combed your hair though. That makes it better. Okay, so we're on to item 4.1. This is the engineering. This is receive a presentation on the Lemon Drive project from staff. So, Mr. Director.
Thank you, Chair and board members. The Lemon Valley project is a long time coming and one that is important, very important to us and people in North Valleys and the region. At this time, I would like to hand it over to Director Stewart to present the presentation to update the board. Not asking for any specific direction, but certainly we will take that if you have it after we have the presentation.
Okay. All right. Mr. Stewart, Brian, how are you this morning? Can you hear us?
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing me to present the meeting. I'm going to introduce Dale Keller is the project manager. He will be taking over and detailing out this presentation for us. We have a PowerPoint that we'd like to share to really showcase this important project and where we're at with that. So that being said, I will pass this off to Dale Keller, the project manager.
All right, good morning, Chair and members of the board. Let me share my screen with you.
Perfect.
So Dale Keller, RTC Engineering Manager for the record. Today, I am pleased to share with you some significant updates on the Lemon Drive project,
Dale.
as well as
Dale.
some key milestones reached.
Dale, 1 second here. Can everybody see Dale's screen? Dale, we're only seeing half of your screen right now for some odd reason.
Yeah, that's all I get to is half.
Let me try this one more time.
It's like it's not in landscape, Dale.
Let's try this now.
There it is.
We can see it there.
How about now?
There we
That's
go.
better.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as I said, we have some significant updates to provide on the Lemon Drive project and share with you some key milestones that the project team has reached. So as a refresher, here is a map of the project limits of segment 1. Segment 1 will widen Lemon Drive from Sky Vista Parkway to Military Road from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. The preliminary plans have been reviewed and final design is underway. We remain on schedule for construction starting in the spring of 2021. As previously discussed, we are coordinating with NDOT to incorporate the US 395 Lemon Drive interchange improvements as part of the segment 1 widening project. Currently, we are working on an interlocal agreement where NDOT would fund the construction of the diverging diamond interchange, and RTC would oversee the entire project and administer one construction contract. For segment 2, we are looking to widen Lemon Drive from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, starting at Fleetwood Drive to Chickadee Drive.
So
Yeah, I think
Dale,
it's very-
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question on that before we go forward?
Yes, go ahead.
So from Fleetwood down to just before Deodore, Dale, are there any improvements slotted for that section right there?
So there is improvements slotted for this segment, Commissioner Hartung, regarding the widening of the job. So we are going to be widening the roadway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes and everything to meet the project goals as all defined here in this presentation.
So I just have a question because I got a call from one of the residents who lives kind of midway through there. And her question, she had a bunch of them, but one of them was the fact that was there any intent to put sound walls through there?
At this time, we have not studied if there's a need for sound walls at this area. As part of any capacity project, we will look into that. Right now, we're at such a preliminary stages. Our main focus is to define what that preferred alignment would be along this segment.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize.
That's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Keller.
So I think it is important to define what our role is as the RTC along this segment for the project in the Swan Lake recovery. The RTP has defined Lemon Drive as a capacity project to accommodate future growth. This does include a complete street concept with bike lanes and a shared use path. So back in February, a technical advisory committee was formed with including representation from the RTC, City of Reno, and Washoe County to really define what that preferred alternative would be. We looked at through multiple alternatives based off project-specific goals that would address the purpose and need. And we went through and we're in the middle of a 2-step screening process. Now, we focused on 8 project goals, and I'd like to highlight the first 3. The first one, of course, is to widen Lemon Drive from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. Goal 2 would provide a safe and reliable road through a 100-year flood event. And 3 is support the Swan Lake mitigation efforts to significantly reduce future maintenance costs for both Washoe County and the City of Reno. And likewise, I'd like to highlight the last 2 goals, goals 7 and 8, to ensure connectivity for future road network improvements, not only looking at the 2040 RTP, but also any possible improvements that are identified in the 2050 RTP. And lastly, we'd all want to make sure we have a cost-appropriate solution where the preferred alignment can be constructed and built. So the screening process is twofold, as I discussed. The first, on the level 1 screening, this is where we had a very open mind and brainstorming ideas. And we had a very simplistic red light, green light approach to evaluate different alternatives versus the project goals. Right now, we are looking to move forward with evaluation of the top 3 alternatives, where we further evaluate and redefine the design and identify any other environmental impacts that could be out there. And with the level 1 screening, 12 alternatives were identified, alternatives A1 through A12. This did include a no-build alternative, and each alternative had some key assumptions. So the facility would be a 4-lane facility with bike lanes in both directions, as well as the construction of a multi-use path. This exhibit depicts what the results are, that level 1 screening. This information is also in your board packet. And it really goes through how we look through each goal and each alignment to define what was a positive impact, medium impact, or had provided a negative impact or did not address the goal. So today, there were 3 alternatives recommended from the TAC to move forward to the level 2 screening evaluations. So the first one is alternative 2, which is raise existing Lemon Drive. So we'd keep the alignment on the same alignment as it is today and elevate Lemon above the 100-year floodplain. The construction cost is roughly $25 million. Alternative 2 would be the natural berm alignment, where we realign Lemon Drive to the west, starting around Deodore, and follow the alignment of the natural berm of Swan Lake. As you can see in green, this project extends all the way up to Pompeii and providing connections to Chickadee and to the other developments to the east. And the last alternative that we are looking to move forward is alternative 8, which would be the Deodore alignment, where Lemon Drive would be realigned to the east around the Deodore corridor alignment. And this costs roughly about $50 million. And I believe I did not talk about the cost of the natural berm alignment. We're looking around a cost of about $45 million. Next steps, we'll continue our outreach effort here with our stakeholders, doing presentations like this. Later this fall, we are looking to have a joint public workshop with the City of Reno and Washoe County to provide an update about the Swan Lake recovery. Concurrently, if we have some buy-in on these top 3 alternatives, we will move forward with this level 2 screening and recommend a preferred alternative by the end of 2020. So I want to thank you for your attention and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Keller. Are there any questions for Mr. Keller in regards to the Lemon Valley project?
Chair,
Commissioner Hartung.
thank you. So Dale, define buy-in by whom? Are you looking for buy-in by the RTC board, or are you looking for buy-in by the community, or both?
So we're looking for a regional solution around this area, Swan Lake. Right now, this is what the TAC has recommended for the 3 alternatives. We'll continue to go along this process. I defer to Brian Stewart and the executive director about what we'd be asking. I think at the end of the day, we'd be looking for a preferred alternative. Today, we just want to provide an update about where we are along the process.
Okay.
If I might,
Yes.
go ahead, Brian.
Brian Stewart, Engineering Director. Yes, that's exactly what it is for the community, as well as, you know, the local jurisdictions as looking for that solution, knowing the Swan Lake recovery, and we're a piece of that puzzle. On the TAC meeting is representatives from obviously Washoe County, as well as the City of Reno. And so I think we got a real good solution with respect to the agencies and coming out of there with a real technical good plans with these 3 alternatives to move forward. But we would be getting the input from the community also on the pros and cons and what concerns are.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry. So I'll wait. I'll let other commissioners weigh in. But if you're looking for a preferred alternative, I mean, I'd certainly like to discuss the pros and the cons, and you know, just maybe make some of that public, because I can see some benefits and some real issues with some of them. So I'll stand down and let some other commissioners chime in here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair, if I could have one question. I know I'm jumping into this, but I only heard that on the first phase, you said 25 million. Did you say what the other ones would cost, or are they similar? Did I miss that?
For the segment 2 alternatives, so the 3 that we're moving forward, the first one, as you mentioned, for the raised Lemon Drive on the existing alignment, that's roughly 25 million. The natural berm alignment, where we're moving to the west, is roughly about $45 million. And then the eastern alignment, the Deodore, is roughly 50 million. And a lot of some of those increasing costs are due with potential right-of-ways. We captured all the cost. We looked into what would be overall, so that does include right-of-way impacts as well.
Probably, yeah, it's probably significant to keep that at the front of the conversations, just saying. Thanks.
All right. Executive Director.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Delgado.
Thank you. In your presentation, I didn't see, and I think you might have touched on this before, but with the growing population in North Valleys, I know there's been a lot of conversations with respect to lighting. Can you talk to us about what's been incorporated in the project with lighting with respect to safety in general?
Yes, sir. Councilman Delgado, is with the second one of the project, we are at the preliminary design, and we're still working with city staff to identify the safety needs around lighting. I know that's a sensitive subject between providing safety and then dark skies, so we'll continue to work with city staff on determining the lighting for that segment 1 corridor.
So they'll come back to us at some point. I'd hate for the project to move forward and then for it to come back and we'd have to tear up the streets or something to put in lighting when we could get ahead of it ahead of time for the sake of making sure you have to tear things up twice or 3 times. But I don't know it's sensitive out there and the more we go, but ultimately the safety is at the forefront of all the projects. So what I'm understanding is you guys will come back to us with respect to how that's going to be embedded as part of the project. Is that right?
We can do that for you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Hartung, you had some follow-up questions?
Oh, absolutely. So looking at the 3 alignments, for me, the berm alignment is probably the preferable one. That's good. Thank you so much. Which would be alternative 6. Have we talked, because I think that, that berm is owned by, I mean, I know it is, I think it's owned by a private property owner though. Have we talked to them about dedication of that so that it could reduce some of the costs of right-of-way? And I know, and I think on the far north end, I'm not 100% positive. I'd have to go back and look, and I can probably do it right now. But maybe you can address that. I'll pull the map up and look at some of the property ownership, but I think some of that is actually either owned by Washoe County or maybe it's federal land.
I believe it's federal land, Commissioner.
Right.
Yes, sir. So that property is on the, I guess, adjacent to just right of, or where the natural berm alignment would go. That is on private property, the majority of it.
Yes.
We have had conversations with the property owner, very preliminary conversations. We have not get into the discussion about dedication yet.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think that's a crucial conversation to have before we can actually put a price tag on it. The Deodore alignment, I'm sorry, I just don't think it achieves any of the goals. It doesn't increase access to some of the far north properties. While it does assist with some of the ultimate goals that I know are on the table to take a road over to Spanish Springs, there's still some problems with that. And alternative 2, I mean, I think that's certainly viable, but again, only taking it to Chickadee. And if we go back to the previous executive director, Lee Gibson's comments, and they are on the record, that getting it from Chickadee to about Ramsey is really the ultimate goal. And I mean, I think we just need to open up the entire sort of backside of that valley just for access, for safety reasons. I mean, if we're going to be on the ground, let's not do this halfway. I'm just going to be adamant. Let's not do it halfway. Let's do it correctly. And I don't want to poke anybody in the eye, but I can show you a whole bunch of places where, in my belief, we've only gone a portion of the way, and all it's going to do is cost us a ton more in the next 10 to 15 years to pick up where we left off. And so I really like alternative 6. I think it solves a lot of problems, and it actually creates a more livable environment, I believe, for many of the people who are adjacent to the existing roadway. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Commissioner. I'm going to chime in here and provide some of my thought process. I would also agree with, being that we have the city of Reno and Washoe County has dealt with the flooding in Lemon Valley and Swan Lake for the last 4 years. It has been a challenge to address some of those concerns. And as we continue to talk about how the safety of that community and improving some of that barrier by the usage of a road, my preference and continued preference would be to move forward with alternative 6 and go with the natural berm alignment. And the reasons for that, and I understand the reasons for the alternative 8, which is the Deodora alignment, to help open up, continued paths to Spanish Springs through Hungry Valley and a number of different, but those options still have not been really truly explored through the tribes and different things like that. So there's a lot of challenges there. So to build a road to somewhere without having a clear understanding about what our partners feel, how our partners feel about those alignments to Spanish Springs, that's a really, really distance thinking. Not that I'm opposed to that, but I think it's too far down the road. Whereas with the natural berm alignment, the nice thing about it, and it would be the road off of the berm that would go, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Keller, there would be a road that would connect Chickadee to that natural berm alignment, correct?
You're correct, yes.
Okay, so we could still, if need be, improve the offshoot from Lemon Drive onto Chickadee if that was ever to be improved, or the Sandpit Road or something of that nature to truly make that access to the northern valleys or over to Spanish Springs if need be. But also what it does is allows us to continue to improve the northwest side of Lemon Valley behind the airport. And as we've seen in the airport's master plan, the improvements around the airport on the east side of Stead Airport, this gives us the ability for individuals that live in the area to safely commute, to have better access to that side of the valley through a better thoroughfare, higher safety, better traffic. In my opinion, I think that is the smartest play in regards to continuing to move forward with this project. Alternative 2 is just a Band-Aid to not a true fix. I think Alternative 6 does truly fix the problem and maybe address the issue better. And Alternative 8 doesn't serve the best interest of the community at this point, maybe into the far future, but does not deal with that. So my support would be behind Alternative 6 in that understanding. So.
Mr. Chairman, one more question after staff answers.
Go ahead. Those are more comments than, so go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. So I pulled it up, and and most of it, except for the corner at sort of the very top north end, but even a bunch of that still it's all North Valley Investment Group. So what I'd like to know is what's the cost of actually building the road? What are the hard costs of building the road? Not the acquisition of right-of-way, because I believe that and it lists on Washoe County's maps, it's referred to as WRMS, the Washoe Regional Mapping System. That I believe that North Valley's investment would probably dedicate most, if not all, of that right-of-way. So I'd like to see the separation of acquisition of right-of-way versus the cost of construction if I may, Mr. Chairman, at some time. I think that that would be wise for us to know, because then that allows us to also negotiate with the property owner, because this is a direct benefit for them, absolute direct benefit. There's just no question. And of course, it's going to be a direct benefit for the residents of Lemon Valley. Thank you.
Thank you,
If I
Commissioner.
may-
Mark, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your question. And at this real preliminary level of where we're at, on page 23 of the packet in the Jacobs report, we do show those line items, Commissioner, and it will help you analyze and understand those costs and where that right-of-way lays in there. And I believe it looks like it's about 2.3 million in that alternative 6 at this real early stage.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question, Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Looking at this, so there's obviously flood areas all around it. Is there one of these that do a little better job of protecting or helping any of the homes that look like they're still in the floodplain?
Very good question. It's one thing as we looked into that is all of these top 3 alternatives do a great job at ensuring that we do have that regional roadway outside of that 100-year floodplain, provide that connectivity during any flood events. We haven't not looked into it further from an RTC's perspective about impacts and where the floodplains are. I know Washoe County has a consultant on board looking at those mitigation efforts. So once again, that's how we're part of the solution and how we're collaborating both with the city and the county to ensure a complete solution.
It'd be good to see, I mean, just in looking at it, it seems like probably alternate 6 is probably going to be the one that looks like you're going to help it the most, but again, that doesn't mean it's true. But that would be something I'd be interested in knowing, because I do agree in the sense that if any money we're spending, we should do it right and not have to come back and do it again, or, and so we didn't do it all the way. So I don't disagree with that thought. And it would seem that this might be more far-reaching and helpful on alternative 6 just by looking at this. Thanks.
Commissioner Dare, and from Washoe County standpoint, our staff and Community Services Department is working diligently with RTC and with our consultant, identifying future mitigation efforts. Dwayne Smith, I know, has done and given presentation to the commission in regards to mitigation efforts and what we're expending to continue to do dewatering and future planning efforts to prevent some of that flooding into those eastern properties off of Chickadee and behind Deodora, from Deodora to Chickadee. So those continued discussions are going on. So without going into this in more detail, and I know we have a lot of specific questions in regards to Lemon Drive project, I think staff got a lot of good direction from us. I think they have to go back and fish out some of these numbers to Commissioner Hartung in regards to some of the dedication of the property. Also, some of the flood mitigation efforts in regards to working jointly with Washoe County and the city of Reno on those projects. Also plays into the role of the water treatment plant at the corner there at Deodore. So there's a lot that needs to be discussed before we can really get down to some hard numbers. But I think from the discussions that's being had here, and my understanding from what I'm hearing from the commissioners, is that we just want to continue to look into some of the safety aspects in regards to lighting and what we can do. We want to make sure we do it right the first time and get the right alignment that has the best benefit for future planning and mitigation out there. And provides, equally safe opportunities for us to continue to keep that neighborhood as safe and dry as possible. So did I pretty much summate everybody's comments this morning?
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Sure, Mr.
That was
Secretary
very
Thomas.
helpful. Really, this is a regional road, so it is most important that this body find some agreement on how to proceed. As Dale pointed out, we had 12 options. We culled it down to 3, but these were advisors to you. Ultimately, we're looking for the board who will make the final decision where to go. It sounds like from the conversation, just to start where you left off, is that we're down to 2 and 6. and that there's additional information you want before you make a decision on those two. The question I would have for the board is, should we continue with the public process with all three or just the two? And then come back once we have that public input as well as the information you've asked for? Or is there an interest in culling it down even further and just go for 6 as we go out into a public process?
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board this morning? I mean, my opinion is that we just move forward with alternative 6. It truly is probably a larger price tag, but however addresses more continuing future issues. And to Commissioner Delgado's point, where a majority of our continued growth is continued to be in our North Valleys. So we need to address more of the concerns in the North Valleys from that aspect. So that's my opinion, but I'll acquiesce to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hartung.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think 6 really is just the best alternative. It just solves so many problems. But I'd also like staff to come back and talk to us about what funding mechanisms are in place. Are we going to front load some of the RIF funds that could potentially offset the cost? And just, I mean, how does this fit into our budget? Would we go out to bond? What would we do? And so that's just one of the questions. And I think that question is going to come up on any of the alternatives. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's, the berm, doing the existing Lemon Valley Drive or the Deodar alignment. Thank you. But 6 gets my vote. Thanks.
And my understanding too, Commissioner Hartung, to your comments is that from my discussions with the National Association of Counties, is that FEMA is working with DOT in some further build grants to address some of these natural disaster concerns. So there are some grant opportunities, just the same as we receive grants for Virginia Street, that we would obviously go out after as well to see if we can procure those for some funding as well.
Well, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I know our staff at Washoe County has talked to Congressman Amadei's office and others about PDM grants, those pre-disaster mitigation grants to offset some of the other improvements that will need to occur kind of simultaneously to this improvement. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity. But I also know that there are some conditions of approval that have been put on the developer, and some of this may come under those conditions. We just have, again, it all has to be coordinated, but I think you're spot on as usual. There's a number of different funding mechanisms, but I think it's important that we put them all on the table. Thank you, sir.
I agree. Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners in regards to this? If not, I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with alternative 6 and have staff bring back some more funding discussions, both revenue opportunities and expenditures for the project, identifying safety concerns, flood mitigation concerns, and future expansion for roadway concerns, but continue on with the public process. That would be my motion. Do I have
Second, Hartung.
I have a motion and a second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Mr. Keller, Mr. Stewart, thank you for your presentation this morning. We appreciate it. Executive Director Thomas, we're on to 5.1.
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, we have an update and a report to present to you regarding the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, and I would invite Deputy Director Cummings to provide that presentation.
Thank you very much. Amy Cummings with RTC, and this is a status update on our Regional Transportation Plan. I want to say briefly just how deeply saddened all of us here at the RTC staff are with the loss of Mayor Smith. I just can't even express how much we're going to miss him here as staff. But as you said, he would want us to continue on with the regional transportation plan and the many improvements in Sparks and throughout the region. Let's share my screen brief here and share where we are. We have conducted our best effort at community outreach in a virtual format. We issued a call for projects in June and July, had launched an online presentation and public meeting, a survey where anyone in the public could suggest any project that they wanted the RTC to look at and consider in the regional transportation plan. We also went to the Regional Planning Governing Board, the Regional Planning Commission, RTC advisory committees. You may remember back in December and January, we were actually able to go in person to the Reno, Sparks, and councils and Washoe County Commission. So appreciative of having had that opportunity. So at the end of July, we did close our public comment period. Of course, at RTC, we've are always willing to talk to the public, but our next phase is going to be analyzing all of the projects that were submitted. So everything that you're going to see here today, we're going to run through our travel demand model. We're going to compare with our safety analysis data. We're going to look at our bike ped master plan. We're going to look at our pavement condition needs and bring that analysis back to you in the October meeting. So this is a preview. You will see all of these projects again. There will be future opportunities to give us input as well when we have more of that data and analysis behind it. One of the early requests we received was from staff at City of Reno asking RTC to look at the downtown circulation needs for downtown Reno. And here we knew from our safety data, we have some very high crash corridors here that are going to need some safety improvements. We had some big gaps in our bicycle connectivity. And we want to make sure that the downtown area as it grows is able to handle that increased travel demand. So we've had a series of meetings, virtual meetings with City of Reno staff and RTC staff. I wanted to share some of those preliminary concepts with you today. Again, we're going to continue analyzing all of these in more detail. You can see West 4th Street is highlighted. That's a project that's currently in our regional transportation plan. And we've continued to reaffirm the need for safety improvements, ADA accessibility, some lighting improvements, and some transit stop enhancements in that corridor. We've also identified 5th Street as a high crash corridor, West 5th and East 6th as some high crash corridors, where again, we're gonna wanna look in more detail at some safety improvements, and there's no bike facilities there, so we may wanna look at some bike facilities there as well. Now, 3rd Street, when we started to look at east-west connectivity opportunities, staff started to look at 3rd as potentially a suitable site for a premier type of bicycle facility. It's very low traffic volumes. It does shift quite a bit from block to block, so there are definitely going to be some design challenges there, but it's something we think is worth pursuing for some sort of cycle track type or multi-use path bike facility for that east-west connectivity across downtown. And it, of course, takes you right to the arch at the heart of downtown, and we think would be compatible with the improvements City of Reno is moving forward with to enhance the retrack areas. We also identified the need to improve our connectivity across the river. Of course, we have the Arlington Bridges project, and that will improve bike facilities and pedestrian facilities across the river. We wanted to look at Booth Street and possibly a new bridge over near Idlewild Park is a bike ped only bridge. So those are some of the concepts we're going to be looking at in more detail. And again, we'll be bringing those back to you to look at in the future. Another item identified early on by our partners at City of Sparks was to look at the Sparks industrial area. And of course, everyone acknowledged the significance of the improvements that NDOT constructed on Glendale just a few years ago to provide ADA accessibility and reconstruct the road. But we do still have some needs. There are a lot of challenges, again, with the bicycle connectivity and crossing the railroad tracks and the freeway. We looked at the constraints with the railroad at Rock and Kitski, and then identified McCarran. There was a road safety audit done of McCarran a couple of years ago that identified some multimodal and safety improvements. Pedestrian crossings at the McCarran interchange at I-80 are definitely a challenge. So we felt that was something worthwhile to pursue with continuing the multi-use path that RTC constructed on Southeast McCarran a few years ago up to Prater Way. So that's one we want to look at. And another item that came up was the need for park and rides in the Sparks industrial area. And that could be for people currently maybe picking up a My Ride to Work bus out to the Tri-Center. Now they could be parking in downtown Sparks to get to Centennial Plaza, but there could be some areas with more parking available that we could find in this industrial region. So that's something that we want to pursue as well. And of course, safety improvements and multimodal and traffic operational improvements on Gregg Street. Now we're shifting into highlights of what we have received from primarily the public during our comment period. So what you'll see here are some green lines that represent what's currently in our regional transportation plan. The blue lines that you see are not roadway capacity, but they're more safety and multimodal focused. So it might be bike lanes, it might be traffic calming, a range of different things, but not necessarily road capacity. The orange lines that you see would include road capacity. Of course, we also look at safety and multimodal whenever we add lanes for cars as well. Wanted to point out that if a master plan community has been approved by the jurisdictions, and it includes a regional road network, even if it's not something that RTC is going to be building for air quality purposes and travel demand modeling purposes, we do want to reflect that here. So here, one thing you'll see that was not in previous RTPs is the travel network for the Daybreak area. Again, RTC would not be constructing those roads, but we do want to make sure it's reflected in the analysis that we do in terms of travel demand. And you'll see another roadway on here. Portions of it, of course, are not even in Washoe County, but we have been asked to look at the travel demand as well for a potential extension of the South Meadows corridor into Stork County. When you kind of shift to the north a little bit and look at the central core within the McCarran Ring, we do have some improvements that we're looking at across the McCarran Loop. We've been requested to look at some safety improvements on that south end. There's increasing development there. And then you can see increased projects, some intersection improvements, or the dots that you see here, and other corridors throughout the region. And then, of course, much of the new capacity that we've been requested to look at is in the northern part of our community. So we already have some projects that you're familiar with, you'll be hearing more about next month, that are in our current RTPs, such as the Eagle Canyon Extension, of course, the West Sun Valley Arterial and the Pyramid 395 Connector. Those are already in our current plan, but you can see here highlighted in yellow some requests for additional roadway capacity and connectivity that we're going to be looking at and analyzing. And again, we'll be bringing those travel demands results back to you here in a couple of months. And to follow up on what I mentioned earlier with South Meadows, of course, the City of Sparks has requested that we look at the extension of La Posada to I-80 as well. And NDOT has done some extensive studies of the I-80 corridor and some potential improvements there for safety and for connectivity through that very highly utilized commuting corridor, truck freight corridor. So that concludes the roadway projects that we're going to be looking at. We have also received some input on transit. You're familiar, of course, with the microtransit extensions that we have been contemplating. We did receive some requests to continue to look at those and other areas through this process. Extending the Lincoln Line over to Legends is another one for us to look at. And we also received a request to look at monorail to the airport. So of course we will look at that, but we know that the cost for that type of, heavy rail is extremely expensive. But again, we'll be reporting back with results of analysis on all of these concepts. We're also working on our revenue forecasts. We're going to be projecting RTC, sales tax, fuel tax, federal funds, and state revenues through the year 2050. We're updating our cost estimates and developing new cost estimates for all of these projects. So we'll bring that information back to you at a future meeting as well. And again, in that October timeframe, once we bring everything back to you to take a look at, we want to launch a virtual public meeting to get then input from the broader community as well. So that's where we are today. We're going to be very busy over the next couple of months with the analysis and are very excited to bring back some more for you to take a look at and consider here in the next month or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cummings. We appreciate that. We will have some questions for you, so I'm going to start with Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amy, great presentation. I want to thank you. I want to start by thanking you for the addition of O'Brien Pass. Looking at that, because that's a very sketchy roadway right now, especially in the wintertime. And then Highland Ranch Parkway, the widening from Sun Valley Boulevard to essentially Pyramid Highway that would connect with Sparks Boulevard. One of the things I did not see was what's the solution for Sparks Boulevard at Veterans Parkway and Gregg, where Sparks Boulevard turns into Veterans Parkway? In the afternoon, that thing is, I mean, it's a massive bottleneck if you're heading north on Veterans Parkway. It's just not, sadly, it just seems like it was an afterthought, the way that signal is timed, and I don't know. I avoid it because the last couple of times that I've been through there during peak hour flows, I've waited there for a very long time. So that's a very big one for me. And then I'm still, and maybe this is because I've lived in Spanish Springs for so long. I don't know what the West Sun Valley Arterial actually achieves. I'm not sure how that fixes anything for Spanish Springs residents. I don't know. I think we get just as much bang for our buck instead of that arterial that punches Disc Drive through, just to put an interchange there at the top of the hill at Disc Drive. Right now it's at grade, just do a grade separation interchange there where traffic can flow, and I think we'd probably get just as much bang. I don't know. I'm still trying to understand how that's actually going to alleviate some of the issues. So those are just my questions, and I appreciate it, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cummings.
Thank you.
Well, those points are very well taken, and I'll be back in front of you at a future meeting with the Sparks Boulevard corridor plan. So I think that is going to address some of those interchange issues. And again, we are with you in wanting to reevaluate some of these projects that have just been sitting in the out years of the RTP for a long time, such as the West Sun Valley Arterial. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is probably an opportune time to continue to discuss some things that we probably need to address, at least for the southern area, Ms. Cummings, is the issues on Southeast Connector. Obviously the Southeast Connector and the Double Diamond, Damani Ranch, Steamboat area all have still congestion issues that we need to do that are probably part of the South Valley's study that is ongoing. But some of the challenges that we see is also some of the heavy traffic in between off McCarran and Southeast Connector off of Miraloma and also Pembroke. In the Miraloma area, that is a very congested neighborhood on both sides of Miraloma from McCarran to Southeast Connector. with now a heavy amount of traffic moving on to the Southeast Connector, because that really is the only true access, those two roads, once you get past Gregg Street, and then ultimately until you get all the way down to Steamboat. So we need to look at potential additions of capacity, maybe some safety measures or whatever that may be for Pembroke and also Miraloma. Pembroke also very seriously is kind of a rural road still within a city complex that services a majority of all of Hidden Valley for the most part, and needs to be looked at. I think that is one of my main concerns as you move through the area. Also, some discussions with, as we look at Lake Ridge, not Holcomb Ranch Road that moves around. We know that West Huffaker is a county road, but not a county road, but a state road. Those are discussions we need to continue to have at the county level, but also RTC about how because those really are regional transit roads out through those communities that are controlled by the state. We need to get some collective thought and connectivity about what those roads look like through that community as that community continues to grow. Those are my discussion concerns in regards to the RTP. Other than that, I do like the way that we're looking at the North Valley's projects for some of the connectivity up there, and also the connections to Story County. They are our sister agency, and we really don't have any service. We can't spend money outside of Washoe County with fuel tax dollars, but we still need to look at how we do some of those alignments for the growth of the region, and maybe potentially work with the state and NDOT on those connectivity issues between Story County and the Tahoe Industrial Center, to identify some challenges that we may see in future growth and expansion. So those are my comments. Commissioner Dare, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I've been watching your meetings and seen a lot of this already. And obviously, as we get into the more details, I'll have more to share. I do see a value in seeing what could happen off of the Eagle Canyon area, but Vaughn and I can wrestle about that later on in time. So,
all right, thank you. All right,
That's not the Eagle Canyon area that I was referring to. It was the Disc Drive area of this. That was the.
Okay, I don't know that piece of that yet. Then.
Yeah, the western. That's what connects with Disc Drive. I'll talk to you.
Thank you.
You and I can have a virtual coffee, Chris.
Thank you, and I'll learn all the new names of everything.
We'll get you caught up. We'll get you caught up.
Because you see value in what we're talking about over there. So, but thank you. Definitely look forward to learning more. Thanks.
all right. So seeing no further questions, I'm looking for a motion to, Executive Director, do you have something to add you'd like to? I'm looking for a motion to accept the report on the 2050 RTP.
Motion Hartung.
All right, do I have a second?
Second there.
All right, I have a first from Commissioner Hartung, second from Commissioner Dare. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And please let the record show that Commissioner Delgado had to drop off and that we only have the 3 commissioners still available. All right, we are on to item 6.1. Director Thomas.
Thank you. I have a couple items I'm glad to share with the board today. First, which is something I'm always proud of, is to acknowledge some very special service by some of our employees at RTC. Rob Reeder, our Safety and Security Administrator, as of the beginning of next month, will have been with RTC for 15 years. So that's a lot of service from Rob, and we're very thankful and proud of that. Lynn Smith, a Senior IT Analyst, will be here 10 years, again on September 1st. Amy Cummings, our Deputy Executive Director, will be here 10 years in September. And then Justin Doer, one of our customer service associates, will be here in 5. So very good indication of the value of our organization and the support of the board, that we have those employees that we're proud to acknowledge and thank for their service. I also wanted to point out that senior accountant Linda Merlin has announced her retirement effective the end of this month, and she served this for nearly 6 years. So we're very thankful for all of those staff members and everything they've done, and I wanted to publicly thank them here at the board meeting. On August 14th, I know the board is very aware of this, we opened the Midtown two-way traffic in the section of Virginia Street. That was the first phase. We're continuing to work in the university area and anticipate it to be completed this fall. And we will be launching the Rapid, hopefully in early 2021. To mark the milestone of the Virginia Street project, we created a Welcome Back to Midtown video, which included many important people in this whole process, which has gone on for several years. Our thanks to everyone who participated in the video, and all our partners in the Midtown community for their support and patience as we did this project. And I did want to offer to the board a very short version of the video we prepared in case you hadn't seen it or for the public to view. So Michael, if you can cue that up.
I'm RTC Board Chair Bob Lucy. And as the chair, I'm excited to welcome everyone back to Midtown, now that construction is substantially complete. Over the past 2 years, people who live in our community have been able to witness an incredible transformation here on Virginia Street.
This vital public transit expansion project will work to connect people in Reno to the campus of the University of Nevada, Reno. The project makes it easier and safer for pedestrians to navigate Midtown.
We're across the finish line now on the construction stuff, so put your masks on and come on down to Midtown.
When you come to visit Midtown, I hope you enjoy our new white sidewalks, new trees, new roundabout, and new roadway. And coming soon, our new signature artwork and benches.
Whether you're on foot, any bus, or just driving through, Midtown is now safer and more accessible for everyone.
The near completion now and the full completion in early 2021 of the Virginia Street project is a proud accomplishment as you work to bring transportation access and mobility for everyone.
This project represents a true partnership between RTC and the Midtown community.
For those reasons and more, I want to welcome you all back to Midtown.
Welcome back to Midtown, and congratulations, everyone.
Come out and check out the new Midtown. We hope to see you soon.
See you in Midtown.
Come visit Midtown.
I'll see you in Midtown.
We'll see you in Midtown.
Welcome back to Midtown!
I think celebrating our successes are not only well-deserved, but also a good thing for us as an organization to remember all the effort that goes into it. You all had to make some tough decisions to get that project to the finish line, and our staff did an excellent job of getting this project done, working with SNC, both on time and under budget. And I personally, as executive director, want to thank everybody who was involved and participated, and how well that shows for us as an agency. A last point on this is Senator Rosen has asked us to participate in a roundtable with the Midtown businesses this coming Monday, where she wants to talk about the impacts of the Virginia Street project and how it will benefit and impact positively the Midtown economy. During your July board meeting, I reported there's a collaboration between RTC and the agencies of Lake Tahoe Basin to provide transit service between Arena Sparks area and Lake Tahoe's Incline Village and Sand Harbor. We're excited for this regional collaboration and the opportunity to provide transportation to residents and visitors between the two communities. The service will reflect our, be similar to our Flex Ride service, wherein it will be an on-demand and will occur in the spring of 2021 and be available during the summer months. Senator Cortez Masto will be announcing this collaborative partnership and pilot transportation service Monday in advance of the Lake Tahoe Summit, which will occur on Tuesday, August 25th. This is very much in its preliminary stages. It will come back to the board for a service change as well as authorization of the funding, which is money that we have left over based on CARES funding that was originally dedicated to benefit Lake Tahoe. I think it'll be a very positive thing for our community, and very proud that Senator Masto is going to feature that as part of her conversation in the Lake Tahoe Summit coming up next week. On Thursday, August 6th, Senator Cortez Masto notified us that we received $4 million, a little more than $4 million for a bus and bus facility discretionary grant award, a very important award which will allow us to save some of our sales tax money to provide for service. This grant, which was competitive, allows us to purchase 6 electric hybrid buses to replace some of our aging buses in our fleet. The funding will go a long way to help RTC achieve its goal of having an alternative fuel fleet by 2035. We're appreciative of the support and leadership of our congressional delegation, the U.S. Department of Transportation, and the Federal Transit Administration for awarding this grant to RTC. And then lastly, I wanted to speak on about the SRC presentation, which will be occurring next Monday. I've been invited to participate in that conversation with the committee, and we'll represent our beliefs in terms of coming up with a revenue source for vehicles that don't consume fuel tax in order to pay for both the construction of capacity as well as maintenance of roads, and share our interest in assuring that whatever happens through the legislature doesn't negatively impact our chief revenue source, which is fuel tax. So I will be explaining to the board my take on how that committee responds, as well as any fallout from or action that comes from that committee. So with that, that completes my presentation. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Executive Thomas. Any questions for Mr. Thomas by the board? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. We are on to 6.2. This is our federal report. Mr. Thomas.
The biggest issue I think that we're watching and tracking is the refunding of the Surface Transportation Act. That funding, which of course provides a significant amount of money for our roadway system, is still being deliberated. There's a lot going on in Congress between the two acts that have been passed that are different between the Senate and Congress, and I'm sure anybody who's watching TV or paying attention knows that there hasn't been concurrence on how to move forward. We have heard that there's a good possibility that there will be a continuing resolution, which would continue the funding based on last year's funds, is a great possibility because of the incongruity of the two parties trying to come up with a solution. So as soon as we know more, we will let you know. There is a report in your packet that goes through more detail. That was the only thing I really wanted to bring out today, but be more than happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, great. Any questions in regards to the federal report? Any comments from the commissioners? All right, seeing none. All right, we will move on to item 6.3. This is our monthly report from Nevada Department of Transportation, and our director, Christina Swallow, is joining us today. Good morning, Ms. Swallow.
Good morning. It's good to be here again. It'd be better if we were in person, but I know we all understand and we're making the best out of it. As I start every report, I'm going to start with safety again. As you can see, statewide fatalities are down 3% from the same time last year. Unfortunately, however, from January through July, Washoe County actually has experienced an increase of 26% in fatalities compared to the previous year. Pedestrian fatalities in Washoe County remained the same. Motorcyclist fatalities went up, and the county has so far seen 0 bicyclist fatalities. This is especially concerning when we consider the fact that driving has been so dramatically down in the first 6 months of the year. So it is something that we need to continue to monitor and stay on top of. Again, just like last month, the leading causes of fatalities we've seen have been impairment and speeding. I would also like to share a quick story about how those affect others in the community. On Monday afternoon, on August 10th, 4 people were injured in a head-on collision on Wedekind Road near the roundabout at Clear Acre. Reno police say a sedan was traveling eastbound on Wedekind, crossed the center line and struck a minivan that was heading west. The driver of the minivan was taken to the hospital with minor injuries, and the 3 people in the sedan suffered life-threatening injuries. According to officers, speed was a factor in the crash, and an investigation will determine if impairment also played a role. While we often talk about the numbers, 153 in this case, every one of those numbers is a life. And we again encourage everyone, all of us on the board, as well as all of those tuned in and those in our community, to consider the use of the road and how we're all using it and how we can do it in a safe manner. A quick update on the Parr Bridge progress. As we've been discussing, and I'm sure you've seen, we have removed the aging bridge. That happened in mid-June. And since then, the crews have nearly completed the earthwork and foundations for the new bridge. Construction of the deck is expected to begin at the end of the month. In early July, we began work on the false work to temporarily support the new precast concrete bridge girders, or horizontal beams supporting the future bridge deck. Earlier this month, the girders were lifted by cranes and slid from the temporary false work into their permanent location. Because of the high voltage overhead power, we had to actually slide them compared to lifting them as we might normally do. To safely install the new bridge deck forms, drivers on US 395 were detoured over the freeway ramps overnight from August 6th until August 15th, last Saturday. And there were minor delays associated with that. Keep in mind the ramps between 395 and Pardandini Boulevard do remain closed 24/7 to help keep motorists safe in the construction zone and enable crews to safely reconstruct the ramps and allow placement of up to 5 feet of fill to tie into the new bridge. Emergency access will remain available for the first responders through this time. And overall, the project is progressing on schedule, and the new bridge is expected to be reopened by mid-October, with all construction to be completed by December. The wider bridge is, as you guys know, the critical first step in our future phase widening of 395 in the North Valleys. Another update that you'll be getting on a regular basis is the update on the SBX project. So this month, as Commissioner Lucy, as you noted, we have started with reconstruction of one of the first phases of this project. On Sunday, we started reconstruction and replacement of cracking interstate concrete, which is over 40 years old, and it will require approximately 4,000 cubic yards of new concrete. This replacement is along the northbound I-580 lanes between Mill and the Spaghetti Bowl, and the construction will be split as crews replace, travel should be split around it as crews replace the aging concrete. So the existing interstate lanes between Mill and the Spaghetti Bowl, the middle lanes actually will be closed for reconstruction. And as you drive this, as you've driven it in the past, you may have noticed that the condition of the pavement is different between the middle lanes and the outside lanes in this section of road. So the work zone will actually look a lot like a football in that we'll have the tapers south and then north, and traffic will be diverted to the outside lanes in both cases to allow for this work to be completed. This kicks off the construction of the first phase of the SBX improvements. Over the next 2 years, as you know, we will be widening eastbound I-80 to southbound 580 ramp into 2 lanes, restriping eastbound I-80 between Wells and Spaghetti Bowl, adding merge lanes and improving ramps on southbound 580 between the Spaghetti Bowl and Plum, and installing sound and aesthetic walls. Two other quick updates on it is we are anticipating a virtual groundbreaking for sometime in September, and we'll keep you apprised of that. And what is most critically important is the project remains on schedule for substantial completion in late 2022. And then lastly, I just wanted to follow up on a couple of questions from last meeting. The first was Commissioner Hartung asked about Pyramid Highway north of Egyptian. And I asked the team to look at this one again. And as you know, this section is between Egyptian and Calle de la Plata, is part of the Pyramid 395 Connector EIS, and is currently scheduled in phase 9 and planned for the outer years of the current RTP. We will continue to partner with RTC on this project for consideration in both the RTP and in our One Nevada Transportation Plan. We are currently conducting an intersection control evaluation for the intersection of Pyramid and Egyptian Way in coordination with RTC in Washoe County. The results and recommendation of this study should be available later this year. And at that point in time, we'll be considering, depending on the results, the prioritization and funding through both the RTC and again, our One Nevada plan. The other question was brought up by Councilwoman Jardin regarding McCarran and Keystone. And as all of you are probably familiar, this location has a long history of improvement considerations, starting with the Keystone Canyon PUD development standards in 2000, which were most recently updated in 2011. Those standards require that a developer install a signal at the location when warrants are met, as well as improvements on the McCarran and Victory. Subsequent traffic impact studies by other developments, such as the Reno Cyclery, assume a signal at this location based on that developer agreement. In addition to the PUD, NDOT has conducted a lot of work in the area in terms of studies. Most recently, we completed an intersection control evaluation earlier this year. The intersection alternatives evaluated included increased channelization and restricted crossing U-turn, a traffic signal, and a roundabout. In the end, the recommendation was no build because the initial analysis did not conclude that any of those improvements would have both a safety benefit and a positive benefit cost impact. That being said, NDOT, Washoe RTC, and the City of Reno are coordinating on potential short-term and long-term improvements for this intersection. In fact, they have a scheduled meeting later today to discuss possible options. And then before I conclude, I did just want to echo the comments of so many earlier today on the passing of Mayor Smith. I did not have as much time to work with him and serve with him in the short time that I've been here. But in the time that I did see that he was a passionate and strong leader in the community and a critical partner in delivering our transportation program. My and NDOT's deepest condolences go out to his family, friends, and the city of Sparks.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Swallow, and we appreciate you being with us this morning. Any comments from the commissioners for Director Swallow?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you. Director Swallow, at our last BCC meeting, I brought this up, and I'm hopeful that we can come to some kind of a resolve. I had a constituent contact me who was on Pyramid Highway heading south, going through the intersection of Calle de la Plata and Pyramid. He was doing the speed limit. He was doing 55 miles an hour. He was towing a 4-horse trailer loaded with 4 horses. And because there's no warning when the signal is going to change or even the timing of that signal, the length of the yellow, he literally, and he said he just white knuckled it, blew through that intersection through the red and had no advance warning that he should stop. He was doing everything that he should have been doing. And I know I've asked you about this before. I don't want an incident worse, a fatality, to drive that, changing some things at that intersection. Can we please look at that intersection either lengthen the time of the yellow on Pyramid itself, or revert it, or not revert, change it to the consistent methodology that's used the entire length of.
Commissioner, we lost your audio. Did your internet go out? We can see you, but we lost your audio. I apologize. Oh, we've lost all the audio.
Maybe they hear each other, but we don't hear them.
Oh, well, we've lost our audio.
We can't hear anyone right now,
Uh-oh.
and they can't hear us.
I can read your lips, but I'm not doing a very good job of getting all the words. So
tell you what he
we're going to have to hold on. I'm going to have to, so I can get this on the record, what I'm going to do is have staff will probably end the meeting and then reconvene the meeting so that we have to restart the meeting. It might be something we can fix, but we're going to have staff on it. So we'll just do a quick recess so we can get back to some of the questions and get it on the record. This never happened before. This is new. I don't know what happened. Commissioner Hartung, can you try to talk right now or Did you restart that computer?